You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we will be talking about the third test between England and India, as well as wrapping up the 100, I think, boys, where the Oval Invincibles women's team and the Southern Brave men's team took down the various different competitions. I'm Jack Hope, and today I'm joined by the Holy Trinity. Well, I'm part of the Holy Trinity. I'm not joined by the Holy Trinity. We are the Holy Trinity. Ross Egg, how are you doing?
I like how you brought religion into this straight from the off. That's a good thing to do. I'm good. I enjoyed being at the 100 on Friday. Thought it was a really enjoyable experience, and we'll come on to that later. And I'm very much looking forward to a depleted England side getting absolutely crushed by the Indians. So yeah.
And Maximus Rowe Brown. How you doing, Max?
Hi, Jack. I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, so perhaps I'll be the ghost in the Trinity. And yeah, but I'm sure between the two of you, spending some time with you guys for an hour will perk me up, and I'll be right as rain by the end.
Just from your point of view, who's the father and who's the son?
That's you've got to be the son, haven't you? You're the most childish. I'd say Ross is marginally more responsible.
Ross's daddy route,
despite his cider incident at Lord's.
Yeah, as I said, when we talk about India v England at Headingley, I think we'll start with that. But before we do, Ross, do you want to give our listeners, our viewers, our people who read the transcript,
consumers?
Yeah. Well, we are sponsored by Woodstock Cricket, as you can see with the massive logo on the screen. If you want a cricket bat or any cricket gear, go onto their website, use code TCP25 and get 25% off. It is great stuff. Jack has actually learned how to bat this year, which is good after failing for pretty much 2 years. We're also in need of your love, care, and attention on our YouTube channel. We've gone up by about 500 subscribers in the last week. I think we could do that again. So another week of 500 going up would be great. So subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on your podcast, go on to YouTube, find us, and then subscribe. And then also follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep. Do all of those things. Comment, like, beat the algorithm in general. That's what we're all about here. Is taking on the digital supremacy of YouTube by manipulating its algorithm, so that we come top.
I'd also say that I'm really impressed with all the comments. We had like 200 on the last video, and so definitely do that. As some of your opinions are absolutely brilliant.
And we're patreon.com/the cricket pod for Patreon. We get some exclusive stuff there, mainly graphs. But they're good. Let's go then, because this week the two teams, they're heading to Leeds for the third test of the 5-match series. India hold the initiative. They're 1-0 up after their wonderful performance on the 5th day at Lord's. Go back to listen to our last podcast about that. That's where we talk about that. Today, this week, Headingley will be the venue. And the last time England were there, of course, it was for the Ben Stokes miracle way back in 2019. So fond memories for the England team and the England fans, albeit a Stokesless England.
And Leachless.
Yeah. Normally, Headingley is a results wicket, with a pretty heavy bias towards seam bowling. For people watching from abroad, the weather is set reasonably fair for this week, so we're expecting play. There's a little bit of question mark about day 5, but I would worry about that. Would you? Day 5. I would gamble the game will be over by then. In terms of team news, boys, why don't we start with India, because they are easier to talk about.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the Indian record. We'll talk about the Indian record at Headingley, 3-2 to England. So they are losing there, which is a bad sign. However, beyond that, I think most of the signs are pretty good for India. The team news, I suppose, as much as you can make it about team news, is that the Indians probably are not going to change their 11. I would be surprised, Ross, if we saw anything except the 11 that plundered England at Lord's turn up for this match at Headingley.
Yeah, I think there's only two potential question marks. One is around with Dawid Malan potentially coming in, so left-hander in England's order. So there is a question around, well, Ravi Jadeja actually isn't really a threat with the ball. He hasn't demonstrated he's a threat with the ball. He's in there for his batting kind of more often than not in this India side at the moment. So do they want to just go for the kill? Ashwin probably potentially one of those, and then Shardul Thakur or Ishant Sharma. But again, I would be surprised if they are replacing Sharma, who bowled brilliantly in the last Test match.
Yeah, that's more or less it. So Shardul Thakur is fit. He's able to come back in. I'm 90% sure he was fit for the last game. When we were at Lords, he was doing sprints on the outfield just in front of us for like an hour, like way more sprints than you would do if you had an injury. So I think he probably could have played at Lords, but it was dropped. I'd be surprised if he comes back in. And then Ashwin is the other one. As you say, Ross, the two ways they can get Ashwin into the side are one, to go away from their four-seamer approach, or two, to drop Jadeja. Max, from the series so far, India would be pretty insane to do either of those things, right? As good a player as Ashwin is, it seems like a good formula that they've got.
Yeah, I think so. We saw how dangerous each one of their seamers has been against England so far. So that you wouldn't be wanting to lose out on any of that. And I think also the other aspect is if you are going to stick with those four seamers, then I think you need to have Jadeja in there from the batting point of view. Obviously, Ashwin can bat, but Jadeja is a better batsman. He could be in the team as a batsman. And when he is your last bet at number 8, and you've got number 7. Sorry, maths. He's your last bet at 7, and you're being followed by the nouveau all-rounders in Shami and Bumrah. Then I think you want probably something a little sturdier to.
I think they've demonstrated they could bat. I don't think they need to worry about that anymore. Get rid of Jadeja, promote Bumrah up the order. There we go.
You get rid of Rahane too. Bring in. You can have Thakur and Ashwin.
Just a team of bowlers is probably going to be good enough to beat this England team. I think what is interesting as well that Kohli's actually managed the workload of the bowlers actually reasonably well. If you look at kind of some of those bowlers, he's not done a Joe Root when Jofra Archer was playing. Like Jofra, you're going to bowl 40 overs from that end.
And now you're broken for 3 years.
Unsurprisingly, you're broken.
That actually would have been mathematically impossible in the last innings, though, wouldn't it? Because England only batted for 60 overs. So even if he'd been like, we're going to have 30 overs on the bounce of Bumrah, he'd still have bowled less overs in that game than Jofra Archer did in New Zealand when Joe Root went mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, I think to not see Ashwin, I like I always say on this, I do think the India team are more interesting to watch when Ashwin is playing, because Ashwin is one of the best bowlers in the world and probably one of the greatest bowlers of all time. But the conditions such as they are, and the England team such as it is, that there's really no reason, especially after a week off and after they had quite a light workload at Lords, or at least in the second innings, to not just go for the same tactics again on a pitch that will probably favour seamers overall. The only other area of contention, and it was solved slightly by the second innings at Lords, Rahane and Pujara. I'm not calling into question their place for this match, Max, but do you think either of them are under pressure here to perform?
I think they're always under some pressure. I think that's just part and parcel of being Pujara and Rahane. For some reason, it seems that they come under the microscope a little more than others, possibly because Pujara bats like Pujara does. And Rahane, I still don't understand. There seems to be some sort of vendetta against him from what I can tell. But I think they're probably safe from their efforts in the second innings, but they will still want to back that up at some point at the rest of the series to so that come India's next set of tests that they are still in there, because I think they're not out of the woods in terms of the overall team selection, but I think for this series they're probably all right based on Lords.
Max, I also think they get some of the flack because Kohli's not doing very well, and people don't want to have a go at Kohli. So Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane fail. Kohli's not allowed to get shouted at. it's only going to be Bajar and
One of the
Rahane.
other two.
And so it's just like it's like you've got 3 children, you've got a favourite child, and the other 2 are just going to get flogged, and you're just like, what is going on? And I think it comes down to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair point. I mean, Kohli, because India are playing well and he's the captain, is sort of beyond reproach to some extent. But it is, 2,000 days now, I think, since his last international century, or at least 1,900.
Ross has got it on his wall, hasn't he? He's crossing them off.
Yeah. It's 650 days now. So
is it, or have you just made that up as well?
No, it's about 650 days now.
I mean, that is quite a long time, to be honest.
Rahane's hit a century in that time.
Yeah, in Australia. Pujara probably has. He's been around. So I mean, there is all that going on. Looking at what might happen, and we'll keep the focus sort of on India for now because we've got loads to say about England. I think there's the possibility that this wicket is a bit greener than the one we saw at Lord's, and that England don't necessarily play to their strength, but try and remove some of the golfing quality between the two sides. Generally speaking, if everybody's doing badly, that has a bigger effect on the better players than the worst players, and it doesn't affect people linearly. So to think about that concept in a little bit more difficult. Ross, if you're going to be out every 60 balls as a batter, and then you go on a pitch where you're definitely going to be out every 20 balls, well, there's 40 balls of unrealised value there, isn't there? Max, if you're going to be out every 19 balls, whatever happens, and you go and play on a pitch where you're going to be out every 20 balls, whatever happens, you're not lost out, really. And that's where we are.
Yes,
that's where we are as a yeah. Ross in this example is India. Max in this example, you are England. And so I do think that there's the possibility that England go for the leveller.
Got to try something.
Yeah, looking at this India side, and this is speculation, sort of halfway through the series. Do you think they'd be cut out to deal with a real green seamer, or do you reckon they might, do less well, or get sucked in, I suppose, to that the fatalistic approach that sometimes teams encounter or fall into when they're playing in very alien conditions? See England and India, for example.
I don't think so. I think they've got the tools to make the most of it just as well as England do, and the batsmen to possibly deal with the tough conditions better than England do. I suppose England have got a few homeboys there, haven't they? They've got Joe, Malan, and Bairstow. So the Yorkshire triumvirate there could be a useful factor. But I think we spoke about it a bit with Dan Norcross, didn't we? The concept of picking a really seaming pitch just to level things up, but you're also coming against a battery of Indian bowlers who will be just as devastating as yours, possibly even more so. If you look at who England are missing, they're missing Stuart Broad, who he's the leading wicket taker in Tests at Headingley, isn't he, with 46, I think. So that's a bit of a loss as well. So yeah, I'd be pretty confident if I were India, whatever pitch is put out.
Ross, any different thoughts on that, or do you think?
I think you're right. I think Headingley is one of those pitches as well. You have to hit runs on the first day. Like, it's one of those pitches, regardless of what it's doing above. You can what's the saying? You can look up, see a showcast, and still bat, kind of thing. Yeah. That is what Headingley's about. So whoever bats first has to hit like 400 runs.
400?
I reckon if India bat first, I think they're going to absolutely trounce England.
If India bat first and score 400, it's an innings.
And that's what I think. I think England are going to lose by an innings. That's what I think is going to happen.
I don't think England will lose by an innings. I mean, I do expect the pitch to be a lot greener. I think that England will fall into that trap of just trying to prepare a home at wicket. And I do think that will mean that India are less likely to win than if you play on a neutral surface. If you play on a neutral surface, then the better team wins a lot more. If you play on random surface, then who knows what will happen, especially if it's over in 3 days, which I don't think is an outrageous prediction to make. And I think, I mean, it's, if you play on a really bad wicket, and we are speculating wildly here that this is going to be a bad wicket. But if it is a bad wicket, it's a bad green deck, then it doesn't really matter how good you are at batting. It will just come down to luck, and that's probably England's best way of winning a game here.
What happened in Ahmedabad, right? When Rohit Sharma's 60 runs won them the Test match because he batted well for 60 runs. So if they get 100,
Anyway,
Rohit Sharma again.
It could be Rohit Sharma again. Let's move over to England then, Max. Talk to me. What's happening for England?
Yeah. Okay. So at the start of the series, I said, I think it was kind of tongue in cheek, but thought England may well have a different top three, entirely new top three by the time we get to the Ashes. And well, we're 2/3 of the way there. So keep it coming. After Hamid came in at 3 for the Lord's Test, Sibley's now out and David Malan is now in. So England have parked their tactics of picking people in their early 20s to average somewhere in the 30s, and they've gone instead for someone in their early 30s who averages somewhere in their 30s. Being a little glib, because I don't think it's necessarily a bad move to bring in Malan. Personally, to me, it feels a little bit like it's an Ashes pick. There's been rumblings, haven't there? That David Malan, he scored runs down under. He was the only person in that series who actually managed to bat properly in Australia, and obviously we are supposedly on the way to Australia this winter. So perhaps some reintegration into the Test squad was some forward thinking that's been going on at ECB headquarters. But what do you guys think on the Malan pick, Jack? Where do you stand on that?
I don't think that's what was happening. To be honest, I think they panicked. This is a pretty classic example, isn't it, of picking a player who probably isn't going to succeed based on what we know from the past, purely because the media have sort of told you that that's who we should be picking. David Malan, I mean, to be fair to David Malan, since the last time he played for England, his first-class record has been really good. He, by all accounts, he's also broken into the T20 team. He's got some international experience. There are some plus points that I think you can put in the David Malan category. Then there's the fact that he averages 8 against balls that are pitched on a good length. Now,
is that in Test cricket or first class cricket?
That was wonderfully delivered. That's wonderfully delivered.
Now, one of the things that I think India will do is bowl on a length. They did it.
You reckon?
They did it at Trent Bridge. We've got very little reason to believe that they're going to go away from the tactic, which has successfully, kiboshed every England batter apart from Joe Root so far in this innings. Does that bode well for David Malan? Not particularly. I think he also averages, I think it's 20 or 22 at home. So his overall Test average of 27,
isn't it? 27.
28, yeah, is dragged down quite significantly by his performance at home. So if it is an Ashes pick, it's a little bit of a risk, isn't it, to pick a guy against the best bowling attack in the world at the moment, in an environment where he wasn't very good, and hope that he scores enough runs in the next 3 matches that you can, with a straight face, take him to Australia. You'd probably be better off, if you did want him to go to Australia, not picking him at all until you went
until
to
Australia.
The Oval. And letting someone else take the flak.
Maybe.
Do I look? I mean, I hope the best. I like Malan. I think he's. I think he's probably quite a good cricketer. I think there's a realistic expectation that you can have as an England fan that he might do better than the person he's replacing. Is he going to come in and do well by any conventional measure? I'd be doubtful of that.
Wouldn't it be nice to see him at 50? Wouldn't it be nice for Hamid or Malan just to come in and be like, anyone. I can bat. This is great.
Anyone that's not Joe Root would be good.
Yeah, I actually quite like the selection, if I'm perfectly honest. Regardless if he averages 8 or not, I like the fact that he was someone who was selected. He got told he had to go away and work on something. As Jack said, he broke into the England team in the short format. He's clearly a better player than he was when he last played for England. I don't think that should be criticised. I think it should be a positive step. instead of us going, oh, there's a 17-year-old who's just gone out for Glamorgan. His name's Johnny Root, and we're going to bat him at 3. Great, but I think this is a good selection. But again, like it's a horrible environment to come back into.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the only thing I guess you could say is with that one-day experience, he does, he's matched up well against some high-class bowling in international cricket. So he's not going to be coming in, say like Hamid, who's been out of the picture for however long and has come thrown back in against some of the best bowlers in the world, and arguably thrown in slightly at the deep end, having been, sort of away from that environment for quite a few years. Malan is, not quite so out of kilter with that kind of level.
He's our King Legend.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to take it.
He'll at least have played against all the Indian players, because the Indians don't really specialise. They just play their test team in all matches. So it's, besides Pujara, he'll have seen, I think, all of the bowlers before, pretty much. I mean, maybe you won't have seen Siraj, but possibly in the IPL. So I mean, it's not, there's reasons not to hate this pick. There are reasons to suspect that it probably won't work as well.
It's definitely not the worst thing they could have done. I think we can probably agree on that. But I'm not expecting it.
The guy likes facing cricket balls. He's literally he's our King Legend, Rahul, isn't he? Dawid Malan is that.
He's going to eat those balls and score them runs.
That's what we want. And it's worked out for India. It'll work out for England.
And actually, if you want to talk recent first-class records, he's played one first-class game this year and he scored 199. So
I think he did that against children.
They all count. They all count.
It was also at Headingley though. So there's that as well. One last thing though on Malan, right? If it ends up with him actually batting really well and scoring a bunch of runs, what happens to the cricket commentariat? Does the 100 suddenly become a great breeding ground for Test cricket? Because actually,
I think I was reading in my research for this. I have to get it up because the picks were so fucking out there that I couldn't believe that they were real. But Kevin Peterson, who is a member of the commentariat, has said that England need to make 3 changes for the next match against India. The 3 players:
Liam Livingstone,
Dawid Malan, is 1. Liam Livingstone is 2, and Harry Brook. So it literally is. Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, like they see like 3 guys doing well in a completely different competition, against completely different bowlers.
Liam Livingstone is able to smoke 18-year-olds for sixes all over the place. Let's bring him in. He'll do the same to Bumrah. That'll work.
Yeah. Worked with Jason Roy, didn't it? So
yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I think Liam Livingstone is fantastic, but I'm not about to thrust him into England's Test team at number 3. I don't think that's quite the way to go.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good counter-attacking approach.
Yeah, let's ruin his confidence ahead of the World Cup, in which he's really well suited and probably should bat either at 3 or at 5.
Better idea. Let's ruin his confidence and then not pick him for the World Cup.
Because he's not performing at all. We don't want it. Right, so that's Dawid Malan out of the way. I think we're coming down on the side of meh for that one. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't think it's amazing.
It's a positive for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
As you said, Max, they could have done damn it. We could be seeing Zach Crawley back out there, couldn't we?
Yeah, that's true.
That's a realistic possibility.
But England's top 3 remains to fill me with supreme confidence.
Yeah, Zach Crawley is back in the side because he remembered his gloves this week. He forgot them last week, so he couldn't play.
So, Dawid Malan in at 3. And I assume we're all thinking it's going to be Malan. It's not going to be Pope. That would be rogue, wouldn't it?
If they pick Pope at 3, that would be just the dumbest thing I've ever seen England do. And I've seen them do a lot of dumb things.
Right.
Pope to open. Now that would be funny.
I had a dream that Joe Root opened the batting in the next match.
Just could happen. Maybe there'll be 2 injuries and he'll be forced to do it. They'd put Moeen Ali, wouldn't they? Anyway, rambling. So Dawid Malan, that's the one bit of big team news. The other bit is, of course, that Mark Wood has succumbed to that bad shoulder he picked up from his over-exuberant bit of fielding. First question on that, because there were a few people on comms at the time who suggested that he was a fool to try to stop the ball going for 4 and should be thinking about his fitness. Do you agree with that, or am I on my own in thinking that if he didn't go for it, these same people would just be having a go at him for not trying hard enough in the field?
I don't even remember that moment. All I know that he had a bad shoulder. I don't remember the piece of fielding. In general, yeah, if you're playing a league level sport, you're supposed to behave like an elite level sportsman. So you probably should have gone for it.
Yeah,
No, he should just.
Oh, he should have bowled
just
that
wave
fast
it.
'cause he might
Wave
hurt
it for 4.
himself. Like, you don't want to
Yeah,
hit the ball too hard here in case. Like,
He should take a leaf out of Mohammed Shami's book and just start to try use his feet to field the ball on the boundary. I think that's a really good way of doing it. Shami's not going to injure his elbow, is he? Or injure his shoulder?
No.
He might injure his ankle, though.
Best bit about that as well is you can get away with some ball tampering in a much more clandestine fashion than some of the England players playing football.
I did enjoy that. We got about 10 messages going, you must have a look at this, when the ball was underneath one of the guy's foots after someone kicked it. What were they worrying about? Madness. Anyway, so who's going to replace Mark Wood, Max?
Well, it's Sibley and Wood is back in the squad after. Well, he was in the squad for Lords, wasn't he? But didn't play. Now he is in there, and with no Wood, I'm expecting him to come right in. So we've got Anderson and Robinson nailed on. You'd expect. Moeen remaining because they finally let poor old Jack Leach out of his dungeon and returned him to Somerset. So that's nice. He'll get to see some sunlight, which I'm sure he's been craving for a little while. And that leaves us with Saqib, Sam Curran, and Craig Overton going to 2 spots. Saqib Mahmood, I'm assuming, coming in for Mark Wood, leaving Sam Curran and Craig Overton. And I guess the question is, would you bring in Overton for Curran? Because Curran, I mean, he's offered pretty much nothing so far on the back of a king pair as well. So I'm feeling maybe it would be time for a change, but I can see them sticking with Curran just because they like the left arm option.
you know what? I don't care.
Because it's going to make no difference.
I think it's like, what are we arguing about here? The 7th and 8th best England bowler. Like it's. I don't know. I mean, the honest answer is I don't know enough about Craig Overton to have a strong on this one.
Well, he is averaging about 13 in the county champ this year with the ball, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for that is good. From what I understand, he's improved since the last time he played for England, and you know, a bit like Malan, if people go away, get better, and they were good enough 2 years ago, and now they're better. The logic dictates that they should probably be given another go. So why not bring him in? Like you say, Curran has contributed absolutely nothing. You always sort of hope the Sam Curran, particularly with this England side. I mean, it's you need to look at bowlers from a bat plus ball perspective, I think, with this England side, because they don't bat very well anywhere in the order. So, you know, if your number 9 can add 15 runs, that mitigates somewhat, or to mitigates to some extent, the fact that you've got probably 4 people who wouldn't get into to most other teams in the world's top 5 batting in your top 5. So Curran in theory has that in his locker, doesn't he? Was he averaged 25 in Test cricket, which is pretty good with the bat.
It's up there with the top 5, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm looking at it now. It's 3 runs less than Dawid Malan. So that this sounds ridiculous, but it's quite important that somebody down the order can bat. He hasn't batted that well. He batted literally as badly as a man can bat in the last game.
So he can't be any worse.
People do get unlucky though. So maybe that was what was happening there, and he's used some runs. I'm just talking around the fact that I don't think it's going to make much difference either way. Overton sounds like a better bowler. Curran sounds like marginally better with the bat. I don't think either of them are going to be the determining factor in England.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit risky having double racism down the bottom, isn't it?
Well, I mean, there is that fact to bear in mind. You know, Craig Overton and Ollie Robinson out in the middle together is a possibility. And when they're fielding, you can kind of supervise them. But if they're batting together, like literally anything can happen. So
watch this space, especially with the sort of the chat that's been going on. There's a little bit of histrionics, a bit of rivalry developing. Perhaps Overton and Robinson could really stoke the fires.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't deal with that. I could imagine that is the whole thing for the next Test match, that Ollie Robinson and Craig Overton are racist in the.
Well, let's not will it to happen.
No, I don't say I don't want it to happen. That would be the worst possible outcome of us getting absolutely hammered, us being an absolute disgrace because two of our elite level cricketers have just one farm level cricketer, one pretty good cricketer, is going to bring the whole game into disrepute because they can't take being called farm boy. It's going to be
religion, race. What else have we got to do this episode? You know what? I was just saying, I think they should play Craig Overton. What could possibly go wrong apart from that?
You could two ducks. You could two ducks and be racist, but let's avoid that.
Well, if you go back to the point you made about the pitch actually, and suggest that we did make a slightly greener, more seeming pitch, then yeah, I'd say Craig Overton probably is the way to go, isn't it? Because you want to be maximising your bowling output, and maybe having Sam Curran over Craig Overton with the bat won't make as much of a difference. So perhaps that will signal the level of the pitch if we do go with Overton.
Overton's got a first-class century, which Curran doesn't have, so he can bat.
Yeah, he looked all right in the 100 as well, in the elimination of the final. So bring him in.
There we go. Overton, Malan. Who was the other one?
Saqib Mahmood.
Saqib Mahmood. Is he just definitely going to play?
I think so. I feel like
Test debut.
Yeah, but I think England will be. He bowls. He pushes high aces, doesn't he? Saqib Mahmood. He can. Get it up there.
I was really impressed with him against Pakistan in the ODIs. He wasn't so great in the T20s, but we're playing Test cricket now.
Different game.
ODIs, ODIs closer, so maybe he's even better at the long format.
I'd have him in there. I think it gives you something slightly different as well. Again, in terms of the kinds of bowlers you've got. I think if Robinson, Anderson, Overton, and who else would you have? And Curran as well. I guess if you don't pick Mahmood, that's a little uninspiring for me. I think a little bit of firepower from Saqib Mahmood is the way to go.
Great. Cool. Do you want to make a prediction? Wrap this segment up.
Yeah. I mean, are any of us going to say anything different here?
Yeah. Craig Overton century and England win by an innings.
Wonderful.
Like I said, I think the only realistic prospect for England winning is for them to juice the wicket and skittle India, which could happen. That is actually on the bell curve of things that could happen.
The other possibility, if we juice the wicket, is that we juice the wicket, lose the toss, bat first, get skittled, India come out, rack up 450 because suddenly there's a really nice pitch to bat on for the second day because
But that doesn't matter. That's what we expect to happen anyway. It's not like it's who cares if that happens.
Yeah, I think there's nothing. England don't have enough about them. I think we've got too many injuries. We're not going to pull an India at the Gabba. We are probably going to get pounded.
No, that's why they should cheat and play on the greenest deck of all time. That's what everyone else does. If England want to be taken seriously as an international cricket team, they should cheat more than they already do. Anyway, like and subscribe to the Cricket Podcast at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on Spotify. Subscribe to us again on the YouTube. Leave a comment. Let us know. Would you cheat if you were Joe Root? I would.
Yeah. Do you think that Overton and Robertson are going to be racist? We don't.
And we'll be back with some 100 action.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.